Okay, class, how are you? This is chapter 6, and this week, in week 6, we're going to be learning about management and leadership in today's organization. Remember to read chapter 6 in your textbook, OpenStax, and review the PowerPoint slides in that module. These are some of the learning outcomes. Your discussion question will be based on role of management and 4 types of planning. This is a good table in terms of what are the type of functions and activities that a managers do and the reasoning of why. There's planning, organizing, leading, and controlling, and what were the results and what it leads to. Some of the concept check, 3 questions when you're looking, what you're looking for in the 3 questions on this concept check when reviewing chapter 6. The role of management. And this table has an extensive list of what their type of planning is. There's the strategic, tactical, operational, and contingency. Strategic planning is very important when it comes to figuring out what you want to do in terms of your mission and long-term goals, right? And where is your direction of the company in terms of vision and where it's going, right? Take a look at this chart. This is an example of Twitter, a social media site, in terms of what their mission, values, and strategy is as a company. And it has 3 parts to the company mission. What their mission, values, and strategies is. It all lays out into the purpose of the organization, their values, and what is their action plan. You have to understand the difference in terms of efficiency versus effectiveness in any organization as a management. Let's take a look at this video.
Hey there, Spencer Stamps here from Plan Plus Online. When you're in the daily battle of getting things done on your task list, are you being efficient or being effective? The last thing you probably want right now is a vocabulary lesson. But there's only 2 words, and learning the difference between efficient and effective will actually increase your overall productivity. First, being efficient. Efficiency is how fast and how well you're getting things done. Imagine you have the task of clearing a path through the jungle. By sharpening your tools before you start hacking, you will be able to clear the path in much less time. This means you're being efficient. Being efficient at your task is very important, otherwise nothing gets done. The second word is being effective. Effectiveness isn't just getting things done quickly, it's getting the right things done. When you're effective, you're not just checking tasks off your to-do list. You're working on your highest priority tasks first, then the next highest, and so on. Back to our jungle. An efficient person would sharpen their tools and then just start hacking a path. But an effective person would check a map and a compass first to make sure the path is headed in the right direction. All the efficiency in the world doesn't matter if you're moving in the wrong direction. Okay, vocabulary lesson over. You can get back to work. Just remember to first be effective and make sure you're working on your highest priority, then let your efficiency kick in and get it done. If you have questions, call me at 801-456-8172. I'm Spencer Stamps. Have a productive day.
Okay, hopefully that was a simple 2-minute video in discussing what efficiency is and what effectiveness is in the management styles and also within any organization. An organization such as a small business should have efficiency and effectiveness in their operational plan. So here's some questions to consider when you're addressing the topic on efficiency and effectiveness. And this is the concept checks for the 4 types of planning. I'll let you read that on your own. And this is a very good graph in terms of the management period between supervisory, middle management, and top management. And you also have to understand, is it from the bottom up or the top down in terms of organizational culture? And we'll talk about organizational culture as we move on. Here's a good video on strategic planning. Let's play it.
Hi, my name is Erica Olson. Today's whiteboard video is an overview of the strategic planning process. Instead of going through a bullet-pointed list, we'll do it in the form of an illustration. To orient ourselves, I want to outline the 4 phases of the process over here: assess, design, build, and manage. The phases of planning are assess, designing, and building, and we spend a couple of months per year doing that. We spend the rest of the year managing the performance and the execution of our plan. Oftentimes we get into execution and we're not exactly realizing the results that we want, in which case we go back into some parts of the planning process, sort of rinse and repeat. Today's video is going through the whole process, but sometimes you just may pick pieces of it. So let's jump in. Great strategic plans start with understanding where we are today, assessing the current state. Point A. We do that by gathering external perspective, opportunities and threats, and internal perspective, strengths and weaknesses. And we summarize all that information into a SWOT analysis. And as a little asterisk, we have detailed whiteboard videos on each point today, so if you need to dig deeper, check those out. So once we're clear about where we are today, we can move into the second part of our process, which is designing the strategy, starting with our mission statement. Our mission statement is a square here because great mission statements tell us what's in and what's out. Why do we exist as an organization? What's our core purpose? And then by default, what's not? With clarity on our mission, we can move to casting our vision or our future state. Strategic plans are all about moving organizations from where we are today to where we want to be in the future. And that's what our vision statement does for us. It tells us where we want to go. The rest of our plan builds a roadmap from today to tomorrow, starting with a couple of things that help us answer how will we succeed, our competitive advantages, and our long-term organization-wide strategies. These come in different names, but let's just use the analogy and the visual to keep us grounded. These help guide, they act as an umbrella over our entire plan to make sure that we're building a plan that we can succeed and be successful and be competitive with. So with that guideline in place, we can move to building our framework. Our long-term strategic objectives are our framework. Again, there are different names for this. Let's just use that for today. I like to see them in 4 categories because we want a holistic framework. We want to make sure that our plan covers our financial perspective, our customer perspective, our operational and internal perspective, and our people perspective. Less than 6 is a pretty good idea when you're looking at your framework because we're going to cascade the rest of the plan from these. From there, we're ready to move into the next phase, which is building our plan. That looks like starting with our goals, our corporate goals, and we're using the word goals to articulate quantifiable, outcome-based statements. Where do you want to be in year 1, and year 2, and year 3? And most of the time, we use key performance indicators to help guide us along the way. So we like our corporate goals, and again, we're going to cascade from our strategic objectives. We like our corporate goals to be SMART. SMART's a great acronym to make sure that you have good, quantifiable, outcome-based goals. Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. Once we have our corporate goals in place, a couple per each long-term strategic objective, we're ready to move into annual operating plans. And that looks like building goals and cascading into each level of the organization. So that looks like corporate goals being cascaded into department goals, and department goals being cascaded into individual contributor goals. Once we've cascaded it down that far, we have a plan, and we're done with the third phase. So now we have a plan. Now what? We want to move into managing execution because nobody wants to build a plan that sits on a shelf. So there are 3 things you have to have in place to effectively execute. Number 1, people. You need to make sure that every person in your organization has an individual action plan that expresses ownership and accountability for what they need to get done by when. And with that matters because all the rest of this is just on paper if we're not clear about that very specific piece. The second thing is we need to make sure that we have a system in place to track and manage performance. A software system, spreadsheets, whatever it looks like, you're going to gather a lot of data on a monthly or a quarterly and annual basis. You need a place to put that, and everybody needs to be working on the same system. The third thing is process. You need to schedule at least monthly or quarterly reviews of your performance, because without that review, all the rest of this is just, again, good ideas on paper. So with that, that's an overview of the strategic planning process. Subscribe to our channel. Happy strategizing.
I hope you found this video useful on strategic planning. When she mentioned the SWOT analysis, the SWOT analysis means S stands for strength, W stands for weakness, O stands for opportunities, and T stands for threats. So what are your strengths in your business, right? And then what is your weakness in your business? What are some of the opportunities that you can market or enter into that marketplace with that business? And what are the threats to your business? That's the most simplistic way of explaining what SWOT analysis is. Here are some questions to consider about the strategic planning process, and take a look at these tables from your PowerPoint. There are some self-concept checks. So what's the difference between a leader versus a manager, right? That's something to consider. We're thinking about leaders, right? Are they an autocratic leader? Are they a participatory style, democratic leader? Are they free reign, like laissez-faire, right? Think of the leadership styles as like parenting, authoritarian, right? Do as I say, not as I do, right? Authoritative, participative style, democratic leader. They're more of a like collaboration style, right? Let me take into account everyone's consideration and feedback, and let's discuss it and go from there. The free reign or laissez-faire style is more of like a hands-off approach, right? A hands-off approach can be chaos, but it also can be good, depending on the culture of the organization. So when we're talking about organizational culture, we're really talking about what is the culture of the organization, right? Think about it. If you're working at In-N-Out, and you're always 15 minutes late, but there's no reprimand or discussion and nobody really cares. That's the culture of that location at In-N-Out, and everybody just doesn't care. And if that's the culture of it, it might not fit with another In-N-Out location, let's say in Fullerton, California, where you have to be 15 minutes early or on time and you're good, right? And if you are late, you will be reprimanded and discuss the reasoning why you were late, and try to set up a plan to not be late again. And that is the culture, including what are the different personality types within that organization, right? Does everyone get along? Is it something that they have synergy with in terms of their coworkers inside that organization? When I say organization, it could be a college, it could be a small business, it could be a corporation, right? So think about when you're starting your business, what will your organizational culture be in terms of how you run your business? And are the employees happy, right? Think about those. And think about what is the difference between a leader versus a manager, right? A manager is someone that is paid, but a leader is someone who's not paid necessarily, but people will still follow, right? Because even though that leader does not have any title, that leader is very inspiring, right? Managers could inspire as well. Think about it. Here are some concept checks. We did talk about corporate culture. People call it organizational culture, and it's really just the values and values of what the culture is, what the organization is all about, right? Just like people have their own culture, families have their own culture, a set of rules and standards that people live by. So here's a good exhibit of 6.5 in terms of the control process. And you have a rubric or some sort of standards that and goals that are set forth. And then there's measurement performance of whether you have met those standards or goals. And then there's a comparison analysis where you figure out what was the actual performance versus the established performance standards based on your policy. And then if there's anything that needs to be corrected, you take corrective actions in terms of how to improve that performance for the next review, right? Here's an interesting read about Facebook and Sheryl Sandberg. Click on table 6.4 from your PowerPoint slide. It'll directly link you to that table. And think about some of these questions from looking at Sheryl Sandberg's case as a manager or a leader. Right. And this is section 5, some concept checks to consider when you're reading the textbook. And here are this is a good table about the roles that managers play within an organization or a business, right? Or corporation, small business. Take a look at each role, the description and example. This table is continued. And here are some steps of the decision-making process. This looks very similar to when we were in elementary and junior high when we studied the scientific method, right? And once we did a science project, we had to address what the problem or question that we're researching and what is the conclusion based on that research and testing, right? So when you're doing a decision-making process, we got to know what the problem is to make a decision for, and then figure out what some of the solutions to address these certain problem or problems, and what are some of the solutions, or should we go with 2 solutions, either or? And then if we decide what solutions to use to solve that problem, we have to put that plan into action. And then we follow up to see if that problem is resolved or if it has improved, or we need to go back to the drawing board and figure out what possible solutions to that original problem is, okay? This is a good video about the balanced scorecard. I'm going to click on play on this.
The Balanced Scorecard is a strategic performance management tool developed by Dr. Robert Kaplan and Dr. David Norton, who introduced the methodology in 1992 through an article published by the Harvard Business Review. They examined the most successful businesses across the world and found similarities in the way they were run. Each of the top-performing businesses had a very clear vision and strategy that was managed across the key areas of finance, customer, internal processes, and knowledge and growth. Kaplan and Norton formalized this structure as the Balanced Scorecard, creating perspectives based on these key areas, thus providing the balance between financial and non-financial measures. The financial perspective looks at top-level financial objectives and measures to answer the question, how do we look to our shareholders? The customer perspective focuses on customer satisfaction, answering the question, how do our customers see us? The internal processes perspective determines how well the business is running and whether we provide what our customers actually want. In other words, what should we be best at? The learning and growth perspective looks at people, their skills, training, leadership, and knowledge, answering the question, how can we improve and create value? The perspectives map out the company vision and strategy. This in turn can lead to the creation of a formal strategy map. That is, the company strategy stated in simple terms in an easy to understand form based on the 4 balanced scorecard perspectives. Within each perspective comes the identification of a small number of strategic objectives, setting targets for the objectives, and then measuring against the targets on a regular basis to determine success or failure. Measurement is undertaken through performance measures. A performance measure should be one of a small number of measures designed to be understood easily and acted upon quickly. Much in the same way as a doctor or nurse will monitor pulse rate and temperature to determine the overall health of a person, with performance measures we are attempting to do the same for an organisation. Performance measures must contain both leading and trailing measures. All too often we concentrate on trailing measures. Why? Because they are easy to measure and they're accurate. If I want to lose weight, I get on the scales. This gives me proof positive if I have succeeded or not. It does not give me any help to succeed. If I plan to go for a series of runs and decide how much I'm going to eat, then I have put in place 2 leading measures that will help me succeed. Leading measures are harder to identify, but they are the only measures that can be influenced and therefore make a difference. It is better to focus on a small number of things that will influence change rather than so many that nothing gets achieved at all. It has been said, if your strategy has 3 objectives, you will succeed in all 3. If it has 4 to 10 objectives, you will succeed in 1 to 2. If it contains more than 10 objectives, you will succeed in none. A simple case of the law of diminishing returns. The balanced scorecard has become an extremely powerful tool to ensure alignment through strategy maps, improve communication through a common language, and ultimately lead to a better performing organisation that is in tune with its business strategy.
Okay, class, I hope you found this useful on a video on balanced scorecard. Read the chapter and some details of the PowerPoint outline on balanced scorecard. Here's some questions to consider. Here's some concept checks as you read through the textbook, section 6. Here's an exhibit 6.8, the importance of managerial skills at different management level. When it comes to supervisory, middle management, and top management, what are some concept skills, human skills, and technical skills, and the order of importance. Here's some more concept checks for section 7 of the textbook and in the PowerPoint slide. Here's another table that some of the lessons managers have learned and leaders learned through managing a crisis, whether it's happen to be a hurricane or disaster, or maybe with the New Orleans Hurricane Katrina, right? Something that affects all of us in the human condition, and how to manage those crises. These crises can also be the lack of reputation, such as, you were seen as a good company, but you did something bad and it went viral on social media, and you're looked at as a bad company now, and your reputation is going down. And how do you manage that reputation crisis, right? Most people hire the media consultant and figure out how to communicate and convey and address the issue of that incident that happened that may have tarnished the reputation of the company. How do you manage that type of crisis as well? It doesn't really have to be necessarily disaster like hurricane or earthquake related, but it could be something about one of your employees or representatives that made the company look very bad to the consumers, right? How do you draw back the consumers to come back to you again after that incident? Here's some more lessons and what they've done to manage crisis. Here's a video on managerial skills from Indeed. Let's take a look at this.
These are the leadership qualities that got me my job at Southwest Airlines. So I was interviewing for a Scrum Master position, which basically is a servant leader for a technology team. So I told them about my previous experience, how I had a team, they had a really hard goal, and they were really discouraged. They weren't sure they were going to make it. And I told them that if they hit this really ambitious goal, that I would come in a kangaroo suit, and I would hop around all day. I would go to meetings in the kangaroo suit if that's what it took to make them laugh and to motivate them. And they hit the goal, and so I did. I came in a kangaroo suit, and I hopped around all day, and got my cardio in, which I guess was good. So a bad leader is someone who doesn't care about other people and puts their own ego first. And telling these stories, even though maybe my story was a little bit embarrassing, they absolutely showed my leadership qualities, that I'm there for my teams. And to this day, my boss remembers that story, and he said that those qualities were a huge reason why I got my job.
Okay, hopefully this video helped in terms of understanding some of the managerial skills or leadership skills qualities in order to be getting that next promotion and whatnot. Please review this video and PowerPoint slides again during that week. Some questions to consider when it comes to managerial skills. And section 8 talks about what are the trends for management in the future, right? Some questions, concept checks to consider when reviewing section 8 in your textbook and in the PowerPoint slides. Now these PowerPoint slides have been sent to you through Canvas and email, and hopefully you found these useful. Let me know if you have any questions about chapter 6, excuse me, and hopefully you review the materials and send me a message via email or Canvas to let me know how I can answer your questions, and have fun with it and think about what your role is in your business when you start it. How will you be a good leader? How will you be a good manager? How will you make the employees feel welcome and driven to help your business grow? Thank you for your time, and keep in connection with me via email and Canvas.